just kissed a real man.
Congratulations, Emily. You've just ended your marriage.
You know what they say about firewalls? They're supposed to keep the bad stuff out. I built cybersecurity systems for a living, spent my days protecting corporate networks from hackers and thieves. But apparently, I forgot to install one around my marriage. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Ethan Miller, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered that my wife Vanessa wasn't just cheating on me. She was broadcasting it to the world, one Instagram post at a time. It started on a Tuesday morning in our Seattle apartment. The rain was doing its usual Pacific Northwest thing, drumming against our floor-to-ceiling windows, while I nursed my third cup of coffee. Vanessa was sprawled across our white leather couch, phone in hand, perfectly positioned to catch the moody lighting. "Babe, can you move? You're in my shot," she said without looking up. I glanced around our living room. I was sitting at the kitchen island, a good 15 feet away from her setup. "How exactly am I in your shot?" "Your coffee mug. It's reflecting in the window behind me." I held up the plain black mug. "This coffee mug? It doesn't fit my aesthetic." She finally looked at me, her blonde hair cascading over one shoulder in that practiced way that screamed, "candid moment." My followers expect a certain vibe, you know? Right, the followers. All 127,000 of them who hung on every word of her travel blog, Wandering with Vanessa. They loved her carefully curated life, her designer outfits, her exotic locations. What they didn't see was me, working 16-hour days to fund her wanderlust while she complained that I didn't fit her aesthetic. I moved to the bedroom with my laptop, settling in for another day of remote work. Through the thin walls, I could hear Vanessa's performance voice kick in. "Good morning, beautiful souls. I'm so excited to share something amazing with you today. I've been working on a super secret collaboration that's going to blow your minds." I tuned her out and dove into code, debugging a client's network security. It was easier than debugging my marriage. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Mike. "Dude, you see V's latest post?" I hadn't. I'd stopped following my wife's social media months ago when her posts started making me feel like a stranger in my own life. But curiosity got the better of me. The Instagram story showed Vanessa at our local coffee shop, Grind Coffee, looking effortlessly beautiful as always. She was laughing at something off camera, her hand reaching toward someone just out of frame. The caption read, "When your creative partner gets you better than anyone else. Blessed creativity, soulmate, creative partner." Since when did she have a creative partner? I scrolled back through her recent posts. There he was, appearing more and more frequently over the past month. Lucas Grant, according to his tagged profile. A photographer with sun-bleached hair, the kind of stubble that takes effort to maintain, and the sort of adventure bro aesthetic that screamed, "I own a yellow Jeep and probably have strong opinions about craft beer." His bio read, "Capturing life's beautiful moments, adventure seeker, collaborating with a Wandering with Vanessa on something epic." I clicked through his photos, rock climbing in Joshua Tree, surfing in Costa Rica, and increasingly, candid shots of my wife looking dreamy and windblown in various Seattle locations. The bedroom door opened, and Vanessa walked in, phone still in hand. "How's work?" she asked, though she was already typing on her phone. "Fine. How's your creative partnership going?" She looked up sharply. "What?" "Lucas, your creative partner. I saw the post." Her expression relaxed into what I'd learned to recognize as her influencer smile, bright, but somehow empty. "Oh, Lucas is amazing. He's helping me elevate my content. We're working on a travel series together." "Travel series? It's going to be incredible, Ethan." Real adventure travel, not just the pretty hotel shots everyone else does. Lucas has connections with brands, sponsors. This could really take my platform to the next level. She was glowing as she talked about him. When was the last time she'd looked that excited talking about anything involving me? When do I get to meet this Lucas? The question seemed to catch her off guard. Oh, well, he's super busy with shoots and stuff. Plus, you're always working. True enough. But still. That evening, I was in the kitchen making dinner when Vanessa's phone rang. She was in the bathroom, so I glanced at the screen out of habit. Lucas Grant's name flashed across the display, along with his contact photo, a shirtless shot of him on a beach somewhere. "Babe, can you answer that?" Vanessa called from the bathroom. "Tell him I'll call back in 5 minutes." I picked up the phone. "Hello? Oh." The voice was younger than I'd expected, with that particular brand of West Coast casual confidence. "Is Vanessa there?" "She's busy. This is her husband, Ethan." A pause. "Right. Ethan, I'm Lucas. We're working together on the travel series. Yeah, she mentioned it." Another pause, longer this time. "Cool. Well, just tell her I called about tomorrow's shoot. We're still on for sunrise at Cary Park, right?" Sunrise at Cary Park. That was 6 a.m. Vanessa hadn't mentioned any early morning shoots to me. "I'll let her know," I said. "Thanks, man. And hey, Vanessa talks about you all the time. Maybe we can all grab drinks sometime." The line went silent before I could respond. Vanessa emerged from the bathroom a moment later, hair perfectly tousled, wearing a silk robe that cost more than most people's rent. "Was that Lucas?" "Yeah. Something about a sunrise shoot at Cary Park tomorrow?" "Oh, right, I forgot to mention that. It's going to be gorgeous. Golden hour shots with the city skyline. Very aesthetic. You hate getting up early." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "For content this good, I'll make an exception." That night, I lay awake listening to Vanessa breathe beside me. She was facing away, clutching her phone even in sleep. The blue light from her screen cast shadows on the wall, and I found myself wondering when we'd started sleeping like strangers. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30 to find Vanessa already gone. Her side of the bed was cold. I checked her Instagram story and found a series of behind-the-scenes shots from Cary Park. Lucas was tagged in all of them, and in one video I could hear his voice behind the camera. "You're perfect, V. Absolutely perfect, V." He called her V. I made coffee and settled in for another day of work, but concentration was impossible. Instead, I found myself doing what I did best, digging deeper into digital trails. Lucas Grant had been busy. His Instagram showed an escalating series of collaborations with my wife over the past 6 weeks. Coffee dates that looked suspiciously intimate, long hiking trips in the Cascades, a weekend trip to Portland that Vanessa had told me was a solo retreat. But it was his tagged locations that really caught my attention. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel. The same weekend, Vanessa had supposedly been on her solo retreat. Room service posts, champagne glasses, city views from what looked like a suite. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Shoot running long, don't wait up for lunch. Love you. Love you." When had those words started feeling like a reflex instead of a feeling? I was still staring at my phone when another text came in, this one from my sister Maya. "Call me, now." Maya worked as a legal assistant downtown and had a sixth sense for drama. I dialed her number. "Ethan, thank God. Are you sitting down?" "What's wrong?" "I'm at Grind Coffee, and I just saw Vanessa with some guy. They're not just having coffee, Ethan. They're all over each other." My stomach dropped. "Blonde guy? Looks like he owns a yellow Jeep?" "That's weirdly specific, but yes." "How did you—" "Never mind. Ethan, I'm so sorry. They're holding hands and she just kissed him. Like, really kissed him." I closed my eyes. "Thanks for telling me. What are you going to do?" Good question. What do you do when your firewall fails and the virus is already inside the system? "I'm going to figure it out," I said. That afternoon, Vanessa came home glowing with what she called creative energy. She spent an hour editing photos on her laptop, occasionally giggling at something on her screen. Good shoot? I asked. The best. Lucas is so talented, Ethan. He sees things differently, you know. He makes me feel like art. When she makes me feel like art. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. That evening, while Vanessa was in the shower, her phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it reflexively and saw Lucas's name. The preview showed just enough. Can't stop thinking about this morning. You're incredible, and your husband. I picked up the phone. It wasn't locked. Vanessa had always been careless about security, despite being married to someone who made a living from it. The full message read, "Can't stop thinking about this morning. You're incredible, and your husband has no idea how lucky he is. Too bad he's too boring to appreciate what he has." I scrolled up through their conversation. Weeks of messages. Flirting that escalated into explicit photos. Plans for secret meetings. And worse, much worse. Long conversations where they mocked me. My work, my personality, my apparent inability to satisfy my wife. Vanessa. Ethan's so predictable. Same routine every day. Same boring conversations. Lucas. You deserve someone who matches your energy. Someone who sees your potential. Vanessa. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a robot. A really boring, sexually inadequate robot. Lucas. Not for much longer if you play this right. Once your platform explodes, you won't need his money anymore. The shower was still running. I kept scrolling. Vanessa. I can't wait to get away from him. This whole marriage was a mistake. Lucas. Soon, babe. Just keep playing the loving wife until the sponsorship deals come through. Then you can leave his pathetic ass behind. I set the phone down carefully, my hands shaking. The shower had stopped. I heard Vanessa actually humming, as she got dressed. She emerged from the bathroom in a cloud of expensive perfume, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Going somewhere? I asked. Just dinner with Gemma. Girl talk, you know? Gemma. Her best friend since college, who'd never liked me and made no secret of it. Have fun, I said. She kissed my cheek, a quick, perfunctory peck, and grabbed her purse. Don't wait up. You know how Gemma and I get when we start talking. The door closed behind her, and I was alone with the truth. My wife was cheating on me with an Instagram photographer who looked like he belonged in a protein powder commercial. They were planning to use me until her influencer career took off, then discard me like last season's aesthetic. I sat in our living room, surrounded by all the expensive furniture and decor that I'd paid for, and started to laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was screaming, pathetic, boring, sexually inadequate robot. Well, this robot was about to show them what a real system crash looked like. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my computer, doing what I do best, gathering information. By morning, I had a complete digital profile of Lucas Grant's life, and it wasn't pretty. His photography business was barely breaking even. Most of his travel shots were funded by credit cards that were maxed out. The adventure bro lifestyle was a carefully constructed facade, and he was betting everything on his collaboration with Vanessa paying off. More interesting were his DMs with other influencers. Lucas had a pattern. Find rising female content creators, seduce them, use them for exposure and access to their audiences, then move on when something better came along. Vanessa wasn't his first married target either. At 7 a.m., Vanessa stumbled out of the bedroom, looking like she'd had more than dinner and girl talk. Her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing the same dress from the night before. Rough night with Gemma? I asked, not looking up from my laptop. You know how it is. We lost track of time. I knew exactly how it was. Lucas had posted an Instagram story at 11 p.m. showing cocktails at a rooftop bar downtown. 2 glasses, intimate lighting, a view of the Space Needle. He'd tagged the location, but not his company. sloppy, operational security. "I'm going to grab a shower," Vanessa said. "Then I have another shoot with Lucas." "Another one? You two are really cranking out the content." She paused in the doorway. "It's important to strike while the iron's hot, you know. Lucas says we're on the verge of something big." I bet he did. While she showered, I made a decision. I called in sick to work, something I'd done maybe 3 times in 5 years, and drove to downtown Seattle. The law offices of Brennan and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower near Pike Place Market. I'd found Ava Brennan through online reviews and a recommendation from Maya. She specialized in divorce cases involving digital assets and social media, which seemed relevant. Ava was younger than I'd expected, probably early 30s, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit that suggested she was very good at her job. "So, Mr. Miller," she said, settling behind her desk with a legal pad, "tell me about your situation." I laid it all out, the affair, the messages, the plan to use me financially until Vanessa could support herself. Ava took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "Do you have documentation of these conversations?" "Screenshots of everything. Text messages, Instagram DMs, financial records showing I've been funding her lifestyle while she plans to leave me." "Good. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, but evidence of infidelity can still impact asset division, especially if there's proof of deliberate financial deception." She looked up from her notes. "What are your goals here, Ethan? Quick and quiet, or do you want to make a statement?" I thought about Vanessa's words. Boring. Pathetic. Sexually inadequate robot. "I want them to understand that boring doesn't mean stupid," I said. Ava smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I like you already." We spent the next 2 hours going through my options. Washington's community property laws meant Vanessa was entitled to half of everything we'd acquired during the marriage. But if I could prove she'd been using marital assets to fund an affair or planning to defraud me, that changed things. "There's something else," Ava said as we wrapped up. "Your wife's Instagram account. Who owns that?" "What do you mean?" "The account, the content, the follower base. Is it a business entity? Does she have contracts with sponsors? Because if it was built using marital resources, your income, equipment purchased with joint funds, then it's potentially a marital asset." I hadn't thought of that. Vanessa's camera equipment, her laptop, the designer clothes she wore in posts, the travel expenses, all of it funded by my salary. "I want you to document everything," Ava continued. "Every expense related to her influencer activities that came from joint accounts or your income. We're going to need a complete financial picture." I left her office with a clear plan and a retainer agreement that would make Vanessa's designer handbag collection look like a bargain, but it would be worth it. That afternoon, I got a text from Vanessa. "Shooting late again. Lucas wants to get some sunset shots at the waterfront. Don't wait for dinner." Perfect. I spent the evening going through our financial records with forensic precision. Credit card statements, bank transfers, receipts. Every latte at Grind Coffee, every piece of equipment, every hotel room for her solo retreats that turned out to be romantic getaways. The numbers were staggering. In the past year alone, I'd spent over $40,000 funding Vanessa's influencer lifestyle. Money that could have gone toward a house, retirement, or literally anything else. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Beer. You sound like you need it." Mike Chen was my oldest friend, a fellow tech worker who specialized in ethical hacking for corporate security. We'd been roommates in college and had stayed close even after I got married. He was one of the few people who'd always been honest about his concerns regarding Vanessa. We met at a dive bar in Capitol Hill, far from the trendy spots where Vanessa and her crowd hung out. Mike took one look at my face and ordered 2 whiskeys instead of beer. "Okay, spill it," he said. I told him everything. The affair, the messages, the financial deception. Mike listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Jesus, Ethan, I knew she was self-centered, but this is next-level sociopathic. The worst part is how stupid I feel. All the signs were there. You're not stupid. You trusted your wife. That's what normal people do. He finished his whiskey. So what's the plan? I outlined my legal strategy. Mike nodded approvingly. Sounds solid, but, there might be other ways to make your point. What do you mean? Mike grinned. It was the same expression he'd worn in college when he was about to hack the dean's email account. I mean, you're not the only one with cybersecurity skills, and Lucas doesn't strike me as someone who practices good digital hygiene. I should have said no. I should have stuck to the legal route, taken the high road, been the bigger person. Instead, I bought another round. What did you have in mind? Mike pulled out his laptop. Let's start with some basic reconnaissance. See what kind of security our adventure photographer uses. It took him less than 20 minutes to find Lucas's vulnerabilities. Weak passwords, no two-factor authentication, the same login credentials across multiple platforms. It was like he'd left his front door open with a sign that said, "Please rob me." This is almost insulting, Mike muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. He's got the same password for everything, Adventure 2023, with an exclamation point. I've seen more security on a gas station bathroom. Can you get into his accounts? I'm already in. Instagram, email, cloud storage, dating apps, plural by the way. Your wife isn't his only side piece. My jaw clenched. What else? Financial records show he's broke. Like, seriously broke. Credit cards maxed out, behind on rent, car payment overdue. He's been funding his lifestyle by borrowing money from women he's sleeping with. Women like Vanessa? Check this out. Mike turned the laptop toward me. Lucas's email showed a conversation with someone named Tiffany, another influencer with a smaller following. He'd borrowed $3,000 from her last month, claiming it was for equipment upgrades that would benefit their collaboration. He's running the same scam on multiple women, I realized. Gets better. Look at his drafts folder. Mike opened an unsent email addressed to Vanessa. The subject line read, "Emergency, need your help." The message was a sob story about a family crisis requiring immediate financial assistance, $5,000 to be repaid as soon as his next client payment came through. It was clearly a template. He'd sent nearly identical messages to at least 6 other women. He's planning to con her, I said. Yep. And based on her responses to his previous smaller requests, she's already given him money. Check her Venmo history. I did. Payments to Lucas going back weeks. Coffee money and gas for shoots that added up to over $2,000. My money, flowing from our joint account to Vanessa's Venmo to Lucas's pocket. This guy is a piece of work, Mike said. But he's also incredibly sloppy. If you wanted to say, make sure his victims knew what kind of person they were dealing with. That would be illegal. Would it? I mean, if someone were to anonymously tip off these women that they were being scammed, that would be a public service. And if that same someone happened to have documented evidence of the scam... I stared at the screen, at Lucas's carefully crafted lies and manipulations, at the evidence of his pattern of using and discarding women, at proof that my wife was just another mark in his long con. How would someone hypothetically do that? I asked. Mike's grin widened. Hypothetically? Very carefully and completely anonymously. Hypothetically. We stayed at the bar until closing time, planning what Mike insisted on calling Operation Firewall. By the time I got home, Vanessa was asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I could see Lucas's name in her recent messages, probably planning their next shoot. I stood in our bedroom doorway, watching my wife sleep peacefully while she planned to destroy my life, and felt something cold settle in my chest. She wanted to play games with a boring, pathetic robot? Game on. 3 days later, I was ready to launch the first phase of Operation Firewall. Mike had spent hours crafting what he called the perfect digital storm, while I focused on the legal groundwork with Ava. Remember, Mike said as we sat in his apartment, laptops open, energy drinks scattered across his coffee table. "We're not doing anything illegal. We're just making sure information finds its way to the right people." Define right people. Lucas's other victims, Vanessa's sponsors, anyone who deserves to know they're being lied to. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Lucas had been careless with his digital security, and that carelessness was about to bite him. Hard. Phase 1 would expose his pattern of financial manipulation to the women he was currently scamming. Anonymous emails with documented evidence, sent from untraceable accounts. Let them make their own decisions about whether to keep funding his lifestyle. Phase 2 would focus on his professional reputation, screenshots of his lies, evidence of his fake lifestyle, proof that his successful photography business was actually funded by the women he seduced. Phase 3 was the nuclear option, and it centered on Vanessa. "You sure about this?" Mike asked, fingers hovering over his keyboard. "Once we start, there's no taking it back." I thought about the message I'd seen on Vanessa's phone that morning. "Can't wait for our weekend getaway. Your husband will never suspect a thing." "I'm sure." Mike hit send on the first batch of emails. Within an hour, Lucas's phone started buzzing. Tiffany, the influencer who'd loaned him $3,000, was the first to respond. Her Instagram story showed screenshots of Lucas's template emails, along with a warning to other women about his scam. 2 more victims came forward by afternoon, sharing their own experiences with Lucas's fake emergencies and borrowed money. The adventure photographer's carefully curated image was starting to crack. But the real fireworks started when his landlord received an anonymous tip about suspicious financial activity in Lucas's apartment. Nothing illegal, just a suggestion that someone living there might be running unauthorized business operations in violation of his lease agreement. By evening, Lucas was scrambling to contain the damage. His Instagram stories showed him frantically trying to explain away the accusations, claiming he was the victim of a coordinated attack by jealous competitors. Vanessa, meanwhile, was oblivious. She came home from another shoot glowing with excitement. "Lucas thinks we're ready to approach some major sponsors," she announced, settling onto the couch with her laptop. "He has connections with travel brands that could really elevate my platform." I looked up from my own laptop, where I was watching Lucas's world implode in real time. "That's great, honey. How's he holding up with all the drama online?" She frowned. "What drama? You haven't seen? Someone's been spreading rumors about him scamming money from influencers." Vanessa's face went pale. She immediately opened Instagram and started scrolling through Lucas's mentions. I watched her expression change as she read through the accusations and evidence. "This is insane," she muttered. "These women are obviously lying." "Are they? I mean, there seem to be receipts." She shot me a sharp look. "Lucas would never do something like that. He's not that kind of person." "Right. The kind of person who would seduce a married woman while planning to con her out of thousands of dollars was definitely above financial manipulation." "I'm sure it'll blow over," I said mildly. But it didn't blow over. If anything, it got worse. The next morning, Lucas's ex-girlfriend, a woman named Sarah who'd apparently been documenting his behavior for months, posted a detailed thread on Twitter exposing his entire operation. She had screenshots going back over a year, showing how he'd systematically targeted women with growing social media followings, seduced them, used them for content and money, then moved on. The thread went viral within hours. Vanessa spent the day in damage control mode, deleting comments on her posts that mentioned Lucas and blocking accounts that shared Sarah's thread. But the internet is forever, and screenshots of her defensive responses only fueled more speculation. "People are saying I'm one of his victims," she said that evening, pacing around our living room with her phone pressed to her ear. She was talking to Gemma, her voice high with stress. "They think I'm some kind of idiot who got played by a con artist. From where I sat, that seemed like a pretty accurate assessment, but I kept that thought to myself. No, Jem, I can't just distance myself from him now. We have contracts with sponsors lined up. If I bail on Lucas, I lose everything we've been working toward. Interesting. Contracts she'd never mentioned to me. I don't care what people are saying online. I know Lucas, and he's not like that with me. We have something real. Something real, like the something real she was supposed to have with her husband. After she hung up, Vanessa turned to me with desperate eyes. Ethan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you think I'm stupid? It was such a loaded question that I almost laughed. Why would you ask that? All this stuff about Lucas online. People are acting like I'm some kind of naive victim who can't see what's right in front of her face. What do you think? She sat down next to me on the couch, closer than she'd been in weeks. I think people are jealous. Lucas and I have something special, something creative and passionate. People see that and they want to tear it down. And you're sure he's not using you? I'm sure. But her voice wavered slightly. He loves me, Ethan. I know that sounds crazy because we haven't been working together very long, but when you connect with someone on that level... She trailed off, perhaps realizing she was talking to her husband about being in love with another man. I should probably get some sleep, she said quickly. Big shoot tomorrow. That night, I lay awake, planning Phase 3 of Operation Firewall. Lucas was wounded, but not defeated. Vanessa was shaken, but still committed to her affair. It was time to escalate. The next morning, while Vanessa was at her shoot, I received a call from Ava. Ethan, we have a problem. Or maybe an opportunity, depending on how you look at it. What's wrong? Your wife's been moving money, large amounts from your joint savings account to her personal checking account. Did you authorize these transfers? I pulled up our bank account on my laptop. Ava was right. Over the past week, Vanessa had moved $15,000, nearly half our savings, into her personal account. No, I didn't authorize anything. This could be considered financial misconduct, especially if she's planning to use marital assets to fund an affair or prepare for divorce without disclosure. I felt a cold rage building in my chest. It wasn't just the money, it was the calculation behind it. While I'd been sleeping next to her every night, Vanessa had been systematically planning to rob me blind. What are my options? Legally, we can freeze the joint accounts and demand an accounting of where the money went. But Ethan, if you're planning something else, something less legal, now would be the time to tell me. Because once we start formal proceedings, everything gets scrutinized. I thought about Mike's plans for Phase 3, the nuclear option that would expose everything. Vanessa's affair, Lucas's cons, the web of lies they'd built together. Give me 24 hours, I said. Ethan, 24 hours, Ava. Then we go full legal. I hung up and called Mike. It's time, I said. You sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. I looked around our apartment, at all the expensive things I'd bought to make Vanessa happy, at the life I'd built that she was preparing to destroy. Burn it all down, I said. Mike arrived at my apartment that evening with 2 laptops, a portable hard drive, and the kind of focused energy he usually reserved for his most challenging corporate security projects. Okay, he said, setting up his equipment on our dining table. Tonight, we document everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every stolen dollar. By morning, Lucas and Vanessa are going to wish they'd never heard of social media. Vanessa was out at what she claimed was a strategy meeting with Lucas and some potential sponsors. Her location sharing showed her at a high-end restaurant in Belltown, the kind of place that cost more per entree than most people spent on groceries in a week. Let's start with Lucas, Mike said, pulling up multiple browser windows. His whole life is about to become an open book. We began with his financial records. Mike had gained access through a combination of social engineering and Lucas's terrible password security. The picture that emerged was even worse than I'd expected. Lucas wasn't just broke, he was in debt to dangerous people. Loan sharks who'd funded his fake lifestyle, expecting to be repaid with interest. He owed money to at least a dozen women across 3 states, all of whom believed they were in exclusive relationships with him. "This guy is running a romance scam on an industrial scale," Mike muttered, scrolling through Lucas's email archives. "Look at this." He showed me a spreadsheet Lucas had created, tracking his various relationships and how much money he'd extracted from each woman. Vanessa was listed as V, Seattle, married, high income potential, 127K followers. Next to her name was a target amount, $50,000. "He's planning to take her for 50 grand, I said. "Gets worse. Look at his exit strategy." Mike opened another document titled Contingency Plans. It outlined how Lucas would disappear when his scams inevitably collapsed. New identity, new city, new hunting grounds. He'd done this before, multiple times. "He's a professional predator," I realized, "and your wife is his biggest score yet. But here's the thing, he's documented everything, every lie, every manipulation, every crime. It's all here in his files." We spent the next 3 hours building an airtight case, screenshots of Lucas's planning documents, evidence of his financial crimes, proof of his pattern of targeting married women with substantial social media followings. But the smoking gun came from Vanessa's own devices. Mike had set up monitoring software on our home network months ago, a standard security measure he'd recommended for all our devices. It meant we had access to everything Vanessa did online, including her private conversations with Lucas. "You might want to sit down for this," Mike said quietly. He opened a chat log from earlier that evening. Vanessa and Lucas planning their next move. "Lucas, the heat's getting too intense. We need to accelerate the timeline." Vanessa, "What do you mean?" Lucas, "I mean, we take the money and disappear. Tonight." Vanessa, "Tonight? But what about the sponsor deals? What about my platform?" Lucas, "Forget the platform. Your husband's getting suspicious and people online are connecting dots. We take what we can and start fresh somewhere else." Vanessa, "How much are we talking about?" Lucas, "Everything in your joint accounts, plus whatever you can get from credit cards, should be enough for us to disappear for a while." There was a long pause in the chat, then Vanessa's response, "Okay, but I want to hurt him first. Ethan's made my life miserable for years. I want him to know what it feels like to lose everything." Lucas, "What did you have in mind?" Vanessa, "I'm going to clean out the accounts, trash the apartment, and leave him a message he'll never forget. Let him come home to nothing." Lucas, "I like the way you think. When?" Vanessa, "Give me 2 hours. I'll tell him I'm staying at your place tonight, then come back when he's asleep." I stared at the screen, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. This wasn't just an affair anymore. This was theft, destruction of property, and calculated cruelty. "They're planning to rob you blind and destroy your home," Mike said. "Tonight." I checked the time. 9:47 p.m. According to their plan, Vanessa would be home within the hour. "What do we do?" Mike asked. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. "We let them." "What?" "We let them come, but we're going to be ready." I called Ava's emergency line. She answered on the second ring. "Ethan, it's almost 10 p.m. I need you to listen carefully. My wife and her boyfriend are planning to rob our joint accounts and destroy our apartment tonight. I have documentation of their entire plan." A pause. "How do you have documentation?" "Does it matter? The point is, I can prove premeditation. This isn't a crime of passion. It's calculated theft and destruction of marital property. If you have proof of that, it changes everything. She could face criminal charges, and it would completely eliminate her claim to any marital assets." "That's what I was hoping you'd say." I gave Ava a quick rundown of what we'd discovered. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "Ethan, I need you to be very careful here. If you're planning to catch them in the act, make sure you do it legally. Record everything, but don't interfere until they've actually committed crimes. And for God's sake, make sure you're safe. I will. And Ethan, after tonight, your wife is going to be facing serious legal consequences. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Vanessa's message. I want him to know what it feels like to lose everything. Yeah, I said. I'm prepared. Mike and I spent the next hour setting up our surveillance system. Cameras in every room, audio recording devices, and a direct feed to cloud storage that Vanessa or Lucas couldn't access or destroy. At 11:15 p.m., I got a text from Vanessa. Staying at Lucas's tonight. Don't wait up. We have an early shoot tomorrow. Showtime, Mike said. I turned off all the lights in the apartment and settled into our bedroom closet with a clear view of the hallway. Mike positioned himself in the kitchen pantry with his laptop, monitoring the building's security cameras. At 12:43 a.m., the front door opened quietly. Vanessa entered first, using her key, followed by Lucas. They both had large duffel bags and moved with the practiced stealth of people who'd done this before. Start with the electronics, Vanessa whispered. Laptop, tablets, anything valuable. What about the cameras? Lucas asked. Ethan's too cheap for a real security system. Just basic smoke detectors. If only she knew. I watched through the crack in the closet door as they systematically looted our apartment. Lucas stuffed my computer equipment into his bags while Vanessa focused on jewelry, designer items, and anything else that could be easily converted to cash. But it was what happened next that sealed their fate. Vanessa pulled out a can of spray paint and began writing on our bedroom wall. Boring, pathetic loser. She moved to the living room and continued. Your wife never loved you. Lucas, meanwhile, was in the kitchen, emptying containers of food onto the floor and smashing dishes. The sound was deafening in the quiet apartment. This is for all those boring dinners, Vanessa said, spray painting the refrigerator. And all those nights I had to pretend you were enough. They spent 20 minutes destroying everything they couldn't steal. Furniture overturned, clothes scattered, family photos torn and scattered across the floor. The final insult came when Vanessa sat down at our dining table and used my laptop, which she thought she'd stolen but was actually a decoy Mike had prepared, to transfer every remaining dollar from our joint accounts to her personal account. $43,000, she announced. Not bad for one night's work. What about credit cards? Lucas asked. Already maxed them out this afternoon. Bought a bunch of stuff online and had it delivered to a P.O. box. They were thorough. I had to give them that. By the time they finished, our apartment looked like it had been hit by a tornado, and our bank accounts were empty. Should we leave him a note? Lucas asked. The wall art says everything I need to say, Vanessa replied. Let's get out of here. They left at 2:17 a.m., bags full of stolen property, thinking they'd destroyed my life. What they'd actually done was provide me with crystal clear evidence of felony theft, criminal mischief, and fraud. All of it recorded in high definition, with audio, and automatically backed up to servers they'd never be able to access. Mike emerged from the pantry, grinning despite the destruction around us. Please tell me you got all of that, I said. Every second. Audio, video, financial records. It's all documented. He looked around at the destroyed apartment. Jesus, Ethan, she really hated you. I surveyed the damage. Years of my life reduced to rubble and graffiti. But instead of anger, I felt something like relief. No, I said. She really underestimated me. I called 911 first, then Ava. By 3 a.m., our apartment was crawling with police officers, crime scene photographers, and insurance adjusters. Detective Torres, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, reviewed the surveillance footage on Mike's laptop. This is pretty clear-cut, she said. Theft, burglary, criminal mischief. Do you know where they might have gone? I have a few ideas. Lucas's phone, which Mike was still monitoring, showed them at a motel near the airport. They were probably planning to fly out in the morning, using my money to fund their escape. We'll pick them up, Detective Torres said. With evidence this clear, they'll be looking at serious jail time. As the sun came up over Seattle, I stood in the ruins of my apartment and felt something I hadn't experienced in months: hope. Vanessa had wanted me to know what it felt like to lose everything. Soon she'd have that experience herself, and unlike her, I'd be getting everything back. The arrests happened at 6:47 a.m. Detective Torres called to give me the details. Vanessa and Lucas had been taken into custody at the SeaTac Airport Marriott, where they'd spent the night celebrating their successful heist. Their room was littered with my stolen belongings, and they'd been caught on hotel security cameras bringing the bags inside. Your wife tried to claim she was just retrieving her own property, Torres said, but the surveillance footage from your apartment tells a different story. What happens now? They'll be arraigned this afternoon. Given the amount of money involved and the premeditated nature of the crimes, they're looking at felony charges. Your wife's bail will probably be set pretty high. Good. Let her spend some time in county jail thinking about her choices. Mike helped me document the damage to the apartment for insurance purposes. The destruction was even worse in daylight. Thousands of dollars in ruined furniture, electronics, and personal belongings. But the financial theft was the real blow. $43,000, plus another $15,000 in credit card fraud. Insurance will cover the property damage, Ava explained when she arrived to review the situation. But the financial theft is going to take longer to recover. Banks have to investigate. Credit card companies have to reverse charges. Could be weeks or months. What about pressing charges? Oh, we're definitely pressing charges. With the evidence you have, this is going to be a prosecutor's dream case. Your wife and her boyfriend are looking at 5 to 10 years, minimum. The thought should have made me happy, but mostly I just felt empty. This was the woman I'd married, who I'd supported and loved for 3 years. And she destroyed it all for an Instagram photographer who saw her as nothing more than a paycheck. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Ethan? The voice was shaky, desperate. It's me. It's Vanessa. Where are you calling from? Jail. They gave me one phone call, and I need you to help me. The audacity was breathtaking. Help you? This is all a misunderstanding. Lucas convinced me to do things I never would have done on my own. He manipulated me, Ethan. I'm as much a victim here as you are. A victim? Vanessa, I have video of you spray painting pathetic loser on our bedroom wall. I was angry. You've been so distant lately, so cold. I felt like you didn't love me anymore. So you decided to rob me and destroy our home? She started crying. I made a mistake, a huge, terrible mistake. But we can fix this. I'll pay back every penny. I'll make this right. Just please don't let them send me to prison. I looked around our destroyed apartment, at the graffiti still covering the walls, at the evidence of her calculated cruelty. No, I said. What? No, Vanessa, I'm not going to help you. You made your choice when you decided I was pathetic and boring. You made your choice when you planned to steal everything I had and disappear. Now live with the consequences. Ethan, please. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with calls from Gemma, Vanessa's other friends, and even her mother in Portland. Word was spreading through their social circle, and everyone wanted to know what was happening. Gemma was the most persistent. She showed up at my apartment that afternoon, pushing past the crime scene tape with the entitled confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. Ethan, what the hell is going on? She demanded. Vanessa's in jail? This is insane. Did you know? I asked. Know what? About the affair, about Lucas, about their plan to rob me. Gemma's expression flickered, just for a second, but it was enough. You knew, I said. I knew she was unhappy. I knew she was seeing someone, but I didn't know about any robbery. But you encouraged her. I encouraged her to find happiness. You two have been miserable for months. Anyone could see that. So that justifies theft? Destruction of property? Of course not. But, get out. Ethan, get out of my apartment, Gemma, and don't come back. She left, but not before taking photos of the damage with her phone. Within an hour, she'd posted them on her Instagram story with a caption about the aftermath of a toxic marriage. The narrative was already being spun, Vanessa as the victim of an abusive relationship who'd been driven to desperate measures. It might have worked, if not for Mike's digital warfare skills. Check this out, he said, showing me his laptop screen. He'd created anonymous social media accounts and was systematically sharing the truth about Lucas's scam operation. Screenshots of his planning documents, evidence of his other victims, proof that Vanessa was just another mark in his con game. The response was immediate and brutal. Vanessa's Instagram comments filled with people calling her out for being naive, stupid, or complicit. Her follower count began dropping rapidly as sponsors and brands distanced themselves from the scandal. But the real damage came when Mike released Lucas's relationship spreadsheet, the document where he'd tracked how much money he planned to extract from each woman, including Vanessa. V, Seattle, married, high income potential, 127K followers, target, $50,000. The screenshot went viral within hours. Suddenly, Vanessa wasn't a victim anymore. She was a cautionary tale about influencer culture, social media narcissism, and the dangers of living your life for the approval of strangers. The local news picked up the story that evening. Social media influencer arrested in elaborate romance scam. They interviewed some of Lucas's other victims, women who'd lost thousands of dollars to his fake emergencies and manufactured crises. I watched the coverage from my hotel room. The apartment was still a crime scene and would need extensive repairs before I could move back in. It felt surreal, seeing my private humiliation turned into public entertainment. My phone rang. Maya's name flashed on the screen. Jesus, Ethan, I just saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine. You don't sound fine. You sound like you're in shock. Maybe I was. 3 days ago, I'd been married to a successful influencer, living in a nice apartment, thinking my biggest problem was a distant wife. Now I was divorced, homeless, and watching my ex-wife's mugshot on the evening news. Do you want me to come over? Maya asked. I'm not at the apartment. I'm staying at the Marriott downtown until I can find a new place. I'm coming over. Maya arrived with Thai food and a bottle of wine. We sat on the hotel room's generic couch, eating pad thai and watching the news coverage of my marriage's spectacular implosion. I'm proud of you, she said finally. For what? Getting my life destroyed by my wife and her boyfriend? For fighting back, for not letting them get away with it. On the TV, they were showing Lucas's mugshot. He looked exactly like what he was, a small-time con artist who'd finally been caught. I keep thinking about what she said, I admitted. That I was boring, pathetic, that she never loved me. She was trying to hurt you. People say terrible things when they're trying to justify their own behavior. But what if she was right? What if I am boring? Maya turned to face me. Ethan, you just took down a professional con artist and exposed a romance scam that was targeting women across 3 states. You gathered evidence, built a case, and made sure the people responsible faced consequences. That's not boring. That's badass. I smiled for the first time in days. Thanks. Besides, you know what's really boring? Destroying your marriage for Instagram likes and a guy who drives a yellow Jeep. The arraignment was scheduled for the next morning. Ava called to brief me on what to expect. Vanessa's lawyer is going to try to paint her as a victim, she warned. They'll claim she was manipulated, that Lucas was the mastermind and she was just following his lead. Will that work? Not with the evidence we have. The surveillance footage shows her actively participating in the theft and destruction. The financial records show she was moving money days before the actual break-in. This was premeditated. What's the likely sentence? For the theft alone, she's looking at 2 to 5 years. Add in the property destruction, fraud, and the premeditated nature of the crimes, and it could be much longer. I should have felt satisfied. Justice was being served. The people who'd tried to destroy my life were facing serious consequences. Instead, I just felt tired. Ethan? Ava's voice brought me back to the present. Are you having second thoughts about pressing charges? No, I said firmly. She made her choice. Now, she gets to live with it. The next morning, I sat in the courthouse gallery and watched my wife of 3 years be led into the courtroom in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit. She looked smaller somehow, diminished without her carefully curated Instagram aesthetic. Her eyes found mine across the courtroom, and for a moment, I saw the woman I'd married. Scared, vulnerable, human. Then I remembered the graffiti on our bedroom wall, the cruel messages about my inadequacy, the calculated plan to steal everything I had and disappear. The moment passed. Judge Morrison reviewed the charges: theft in the first degree, criminal mischief, fraud, conspiracy. The prosecutor laid out the evidence methodically: surveillance footage, financial records, documented planning. Vanessa's lawyer made a half-hearted attempt to claim she'd been coerced, but the judge wasn't buying it. Ms. Miller, Judge Morrison said, you are an adult who made deliberate choices to commit serious crimes against your husband. The evidence shows extensive planning and premeditation. Bail is set at $50,000. $50,000. The exact amount Lucas had targeted her for in his scam. The irony was perfect. As they led Vanessa back to her holding cell, she turned to look at me one more time. Her lips moved, and I could just make out the words, "I'm sorry. Too little, too late." 2 weeks later, I was settling into my new apartment, a smaller place in Capitol Hill, but it was mine, and it didn't have any graffiti calling me pathetic, when Detective Torres called with an update. "We've got a problem," she said. "Lucas made bail." "How?" "I thought his bail was set at $75,000. Someone posted it for him. We're not sure who, but he's out. And Ethan? He's been asking questions about you. Where you live, where you work. I'd be careful." Great. A professional con artist with a grudge against me was loose in Seattle. This was exactly what my life needed. I called Mike immediately. "We need to assume he's going to try something," Mike said. "Lucas is looking at serious prison time, and he probably blames you for ruining his operation." "What kind of something?" "Could be anything. Harassment, intimidation, maybe even violence. This guy's whole life just fell apart because of your evidence." I thought about Lucas's planning documents, his spreadsheets full of victims, his cold calculation in targeting vulnerable women. He wasn't just a con artist, he was a predator, and predators could be dangerous when cornered. "What do we do?" "We make sure he can't hurt you, or anyone else." Mike's plan was typically thorough. He'd been monitoring Lucas's digital activity since his release, tracking his movements through social media check-ins, credit card usage, and cell phone data. "He's been staying at different motels around the city," Mike explained, showing me a map on his laptop. "Never more than one night in the same place. Classic fugitive behavior." "He's not a fugitive. He made bail legally." "Yeah, but he's acting like someone who expects to run at any moment. Look at this." Mike pulled up Lucas's recent online activity. He'd been researching fake IDs, cash-only apartments, and ways to disappear without leaving a digital trail. He's planning to jump bail, I realized. Gets better. Check out who he's been talking to. Mike showed me screenshots of Lucas's recent messages. He'd been reaching out to his other victims, the women he'd scammed, trying to convince them that I was the real villain. "He's telling them you set him up," Mike said. "That you're some kind of cyberstalker who destroyed his life out of jealousy." Some of the women seemed to be buying it. Lucas was charismatic, and people wanted to believe they hadn't been completely fooled by an obvious con artist. But the really disturbing messages were the ones he'd been sending to Vanessa. "I can get you out of this," one read. "Your husband is the real criminal here. He illegally hacked my accounts, violated my privacy, set us both up. We can prove it if we work together. Vanessa, apparently, wasn't responding. She was still in county jail, unable to make her own bail. He's trying to build a defense based on claiming you're the bad guy, Mike said. Problem is, some of it might actually work. We did bend some rules getting access to his information. Are you worried? Not about the legal stuff. We covered our tracks and everything we found was admissible. But I am worried about what Lucas might do if he realizes his legal defense isn't going to work. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Don't answer it, Mike warned. But I was curious. I put the phone on speaker and accepted the call. Ethan Miller? The voice was smooth, confident. Lucas. What do you want? I want to talk, man to man. I think there's been some misunderstandings. The only misunderstanding is you thinking you could steal my money and destroy my life without consequences. See, that's where you're wrong. I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. Vanessa came to me. She said you were abusive, controlling, that she needed help getting away from you. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that I almost admired his skill. Is that what you tell all the married women you seduce? I help women who are trapped in bad situations. Sometimes that means helping them find the resources to start over. By stealing their husband's money, by giving them access to assets they're legally entitled to. Mike was recording the call, capturing Lucas's admissions in real time. What do you want, Lucas? I want you to drop the charges. Tell the prosecutor you've reconsidered, that you realize this was just a marital dispute that got out of hand. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to make your life very unpleasant. I know where you live, where you work, who your friends are. I know about your sister Maya, your friend Mike. It would be a shame if something happened to them because you couldn't let this go. There it was, the threat I'd been expecting. Are you threatening me, Lucas? I'm offering you a way out. Drop the charges and we all move on with our lives. Keep pushing and you'll find out what it's really like to lose everything. The line went silent. Mike and I looked at each other. Well, Mike said, that was stupid of him. Threatening me? Threatening you on a recorded phone call that we can turn over to the police. This guy really isn't as smart as he thinks he is. I called Detective Torres immediately. She listened to the recording with professional interest. This changes things, she said. Making threats against a witness is a serious crime. We can arrest him for intimidation, and it'll probably void his bail. Do it. The problem is, we have to find him first, and if he's smart, he's already dumped the phone he used to call you. But Lucas wasn't as smart as he thought he was. Mike had been tracking his digital footprint, and the threatening phone call had been made from a location Mike recognized, a coffee shop in Fremont, where Lucas had been posting Instagram stories. He's still in the area, Mike said, and he's getting sloppy. Look at this. He showed me Lucas's latest social media activity. Instead of laying low, Lucas was posting angry rants about being persecuted by a jealous husband and framed by corrupt police. He's having a breakdown, I realized. Yeah, and that makes him dangerous. Desperate people do stupid things. As if to prove Mike's point, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Last chance, Ethan. Drop the charges or face the consequences. Then another. I know you're at 1247 Pine Street, apartment 3B. My new address. He'd found where I lived. That's it, I said. I'm calling Torres. But before I could dial, Mike grabbed my arm. Wait, look outside. I peered through my apartment window. Across the street, partially hidden behind a parked car, I could see a familiar figure. Lucas, watching my building. He's here, I said. Yeah, and he's about to do something really stupid. Get your phone ready to record. We didn't have to wait long. Lucas emerged from his hiding spot, and walked directly to the front entrance of my building. He started pressing buzzer buttons randomly, trying to get someone to let him in. "This is perfect," Mike said. "He's about to commit stalking and harassment in broad daylight." My building's security system sent an alert to my phone. Someone was trying to access the front door without a key. I opened the app and watched Lucas on the security camera, pacing back and forth in the lobby. Then he did something that sealed his fate. Lucas pulled out a can of spray paint, the same brand Vanessa had used to vandalize our old apartment, and began writing on the lobby walls. "Ethan Miller is a liar. Corrupt cop lover. Innocent people in jail." I was recording everything through the building's security app while Mike documented it on his laptop. "Should we call the police now?" I asked. "Let's see how far he's willing to go." Lucas finished his graffiti and moved to the mailboxes, where he started trying to break into individual units. When that didn't work, he pulled out his phone and started calling my number repeatedly. My phone rang 15 times in 2 minutes. Each call went to voicemail, and each voicemail was more unhinged than the last. "You think you're so smart, Ethan, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. I've destroyed men better than you. Your wife never loved you. She told me you were pathetic in bed, that you bored her to tears. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Your job, your family, your friends. I'm going to ruin all of it." By the time the police arrived, I'd finally called Detective Torres. Lucas was trying to jimmy the lock on the front door with a credit card. I watched from my window as they arrested him. He fought them, screaming about conspiracies and frame jobs, until they finally got him in handcuffs. Detective Torres called me an hour later. "Well, that was easy," she said. "Criminal mischief, stalking, harassment, intimidation, violation of bail conditions. Lucas Grant just bought himself a one-way ticket back to jail, and this time there won't be any bail." "What about the threats?" "With the recorded calls and the physical evidence of stalking, the prosecutor is adding witness intimidation charges. He's looking at 5 to 10 years, minimum." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized was there. "What about Vanessa?" "Her trial is scheduled for next month. With Lucas's behavior, her lawyer's going to have a hard time claiming she was just an innocent victim. The prosecutor thinks she'll take a plea deal." That evening, Mike and I sat in my new apartment, drinking beer and watching the news coverage of Lucas's arrest. The story had taken on a life of its own. Romance scammer's meltdown caught on camera. "You know what the best part is?" Mike said. "What?" "Lucas documented his own crimes, the graffiti, the stalking, the threats. He created all the evidence the prosecutor needs to put him away." I thought about that. Lucas had been so convinced of his own intelligence, so sure he could manipulate and intimidate his way out of consequences, that he'd systematically destroyed his own defense. Just like Vanessa, I realized. "What do you mean?" "She was so convinced I was pathetic and boring that she never considered I might fight back. They both underestimated the boring guy." Mike raised his beer. "To boring guys who know how to use firewalls. To boring guys who know when to burn them down." 3 weeks later, I sat in another courtroom and watched Vanessa accept a plea deal. 2 years in prison, full restitution for the theft and property damage, and a permanent restraining order. She looked different, smaller. The Instagram influencer persona had been stripped away, leaving behind a woman who'd made terrible choices and was finally facing the consequences. As they led her away to begin her sentence, she turned to look at me one last time. But this time, I didn't see an apology in her eyes. I saw recognition. Recognition that the boring, pathetic husband she'd tried to destroy had been smarter, stronger, and more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. Lucas got 8 years. The judge called his crimes a calculated pattern of predatory behavior targeting vulnerable women. His romance scam operation was completely exposed, leading to investigations in multiple states and dozens of additional victims coming forward. I got my life back. The insurance money covered the damage to our old apartment. The stolen money was recovered and returned. I kept my job, my friends, and my self-respect. Most importantly, I learned something about myself. I wasn't boring or pathetic. I was methodical, intelligent, and absolutely ruthless when someone tried to destroy what was mine. 6 months later, I was having dinner with Maya when she asked the question I'd been dreading. Do you ever regret how hard you went after them? I thought about it. Vanessa was in prison. Lucas was in prison. Their lives were effectively over. No, I said. They made their choices. They decided I was weak, that I wouldn't fight back, that they could take everything from me and disappear. They were wrong. But don't you feel bad for Vanessa? I mean, you were married to her. I feel bad for the woman I thought I married, but that woman never existed. The real Vanessa was someone who could look me in the eye every morning while planning to rob me and destroy my life. The real Vanessa thought I was pathetic enough to deserve it. Maya nodded slowly. So, what now? Now I move on. I build a better life, and I make sure my firewall is strong enough to keep out anyone who might try to hurt me again. As I walked home that night, I thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the theft, the destruction, the investigation, the arrests, the trials. It had been the worst year of my life, but it had also been the most important, because I'd learned that sometimes the boring guy wins, and sometimes that's exactly what the world needs.